In today's show, we're really going for it. The definitive case for trading the number 3 overall pick and trying to build a winner immediately around Damian Lillard. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you every single weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we are flipping to the other side of the coin and making the definitive case for why the Blazers should indeed shop the number 3 overall pick and try to land a veteran help for Damian Lillard. Yesterday's show, I made the definitive case for why the Blazers should keep the pick. And, let's put the tiger on the table and yell at it. I think that I've landed on the most logical and reasonable decision for the Blazers to indeed is to make the pick at 3. If you want to know why, go listen to the show right before this one in your feed. But today we are flipping the coin. I don't think I'm necessarily trying to, in this situation, argue against myself from 24 hours ago when I recorded that last podcast. It's a daily show, beauty of it. But I do want to present what I think is the logical other side of the argument, because I personally feel like that is the strength of this show, is that I can parse through the logic and am willing to try to see both sides. This isn't sports yelling. Hopefully it's sports make you a little bit smarter, make things a little bit more interesting. Sports yelling is available a lot of places. Go find it where you want it. But let's make the definitive case for why the Blazers should trade the number 3 overall pick. It's important to acknowledge the context. Damian Lillard has made his desire for the Blazers to make a big swing and trade the lottery pick for veteran help and try to become a competitive playoff team. He's made that abundantly clear. Like, it's just, that's not guessing or parsing or anything. He has said that. But very specifically, this show is not about trading Damian Lillard. And I don't even think yesterday's show necessarily about trading Damian Lillard, even though sort of the context of it is like, if they take 3, maybe they are. But like, this show isn't about to trade or not to trade. And yesterday's show wasn't about to trade or not to trade Dame. This is specifically about the pick and kind of the logic behind that. In fact, if you're looking for a should they trade Dame show, I've already done it. It's in your feed. It's called What Would a Damian Lillard Trade Look Like? Search it for wherever you already are listening to this podcast right now. I talk specifically about what a Damian Lillard trade would look like and the case for it and against it and sort of the logic behind it. But this show's about trading number 3. And the reason that you trade number 3 is because like the Damian Lillard's interest in it is a huge part of it. Like I'm not going to specifically discuss Dame trades, is what I want to say with that disclaimer, but it's a huge part of it. And the reason that you trade number 3 is because you want to keep Dame on the roster. You want to follow, he has given sort of his demands, his marching orders. And the point is to, I think, appease is maybe a word with a little more baggage than we should use in this particular episode, but to listen to Damian Lillard's request and honor his request, because the point of an NBA team is to have good players on the roster. That's the whole point. That's what we're doing. Trying to have good players on the roster. And Damian Lillard is a very good player. That's one of the nice things about watching Damian Ali Lillard Sr. play basketball, is that he's extremely good. So if the choice you're making is making a selection at number 3 in the draft and losing Damian Lillard, the point of the basketball team is to have Dame. So you would is to have a player of Dame's quality. And the draft picks come with inherent risk. Even the best draft selections are very unlikely to come close to Damian Lillard's peak. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of very good outcomes for players drafted in the league who will fall well short of Damian Lillard. Like, even if you think top 75 all time is kind of just like an arbitrary number, I think it's pretty clear it's one of the 100 best players to ever play the game. Like, he's just excellent. He's excellent. He's just been fantastic. And he's coming off his best season, and you trade the pick for veteran help because the window is still open. Damian Lillard is coming off that best statistical season of his career. Yes, he's 32 years old right now. He's a couple months out from celebrating his 33rd birthday. But his prime is still right here. It is upon us. And the point of running a basketball team is to have really good players playing at their best. The Blazers have that right now. And any rookie is virtually guaranteed to be bad to maybe below average in year one. You trade number 3. You trade the pick to maximize the window that Dame has left open. And that's what we are talking about here. We are talking about a window. That's the discussion. If you are making the case to trade number 3, which I am attempting to do here right in front of you, or if you're listening right next to you, and where are your ears located in relation to you? In your ears right now. The case I'm making is the window. The case with why you trade 3, the number one reason that you would trade the 3rd overall pick for a proven veteran is that you want to be as good as possible from June of 2023 to June of 2025. That's why if you go that route, you have to go all the way. On yesterday's show, at the end of the show, I kind of pitched like if they do keep 3, perhaps they can kind of thread the needle on a middle ground. And while I think that is an interesting idea, like where it's not extremely binary, and I still think that there is a scenario in which that happens. I think it is very small. And I think maybe I wasn't super clear on how unlikely I think that scenario is on yesterday's show, and I apologize if I wasn't clear. The middle ground is very, very, very hard to get to. But if you keep 3, as I argued yesterday, there is more incentive to try to find the middle ground because 3 is likely to be a good player at some point in the future, and Damian Lillard is a good player right now. So that's why you'd say, okay, maybe we can do both and kind of, burn it at both ends, as it were. But if you trade 3, no half measures. I think the middle ground is already very unlikely, but it's only reasonable to discuss if you are keeping the rookie top 3 overall pick. If you are trading the pick, you've already made a decision which direction you're leaning. And so the chances for a gray area no longer matter. Lean all the way in. There ain't no such thing as halfway crooks. And if the Blazers attempt to be halfway crooks, going to be scared to death, scared to look, because that's what happens to halfway crooks. You got to go all the way in. And by that, I mean, you trade 3 for an upgrade. You try to flip Nurk for something, a better version of a center. You probably try to shop the 23rd overall pick for something else, and then you hope that you hit in the second round at 43. You leave no stone unturned. You pay Jeremy Grant a whole bunch of money. You are aggressive in using your exceptions. You build a extremely expensive roster, and you try to go for it all the way. You do not half step. You got to go all the way if you make this move. And I think there is a case to be made for just going ahead and doing it. Because despite, I think, what is out there and what is sort of floating around in the ether here in late May, a month before the draft, number 3 is valuable. It's a valuable trade piece. And the reason that you trade it is because it has inherent value that can get you back what you want. Let's talk about that value in the second segment. But before we do that, let's talk about what it takes to build a championship team. That's right. I'm talking about our friends over at eBay Motors who know that a championship team is all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With the eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits just right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage, look for the green check to know the part will fit, or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Motors Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right. You trade the number 3 overall pick because it has value. It has value. And that's important right here in this exact moment, because right now it perhaps doesn't feel as valuable as Portland or Blazer fans, Portland being the franchise, not like the municipality, Portland, the Trailblazers franchise, or more specifically sort of Blazers fans consuming public information had hoped. Because reportedly the Raptors' asking price remains high, and according to Alex Schiffer of The Athletic, the Nets aren't even interested in Anthony Simons and number 3 swap for Mikal Bridges. They would want more. They would want more. And if Toronto and Brooklyn have astronomical asking prices for folks like Pascal Siakam and Mikal Bridges, and perhaps even OG Anunoby in that mix, it makes it harder to trade number 3. But I'm telling you right now, this is the best time of year to lie to someone. A month before the draft, there is real value in not telling the truth. There is real value in getting your side out into the public. And I'm not questioning the reporting from Alex Schiffer of The Athletic. This is the way I would have treated many reports on this podcast in the past. I'm sure someone told you that. That's why you said it. I don't believe the person that told you that, not the reporter. It's a great time to lie. I think, obviously, the Toronto has had high asking prices for OG Anunoby, and I get Siakam wasn't really on the market until recently, but high asking prices for their players for a very long time. A very long time. In fact, Eric Green, Raptors beat writer, did a ideal Raptors offseason, and the ideal Raptors offseason included a trade for the Blazers in which they gave up Anthony Simons, the number 3 overall pick, and 3 other picks to the two other picks to the Toronto Raptors, 3 first-round picks and Anthony Simons in exchange for Pascal Siakam. So if that's sort of the, hey, this is what looks like fair from the Toronto side, you know that what's coming out from the Toronto front office is the asking price is high. And I believe it is. But I believe it is in May. Deadline spur actions. When you get closer to June and closer to the start of free agency in July, the fact that you're still holding on to assets that built a mediocre roster, or still holding on to assets in Mikal Bridges that is, the path to being decent but not really good, and you have a chance to maybe have a swing for a higher upside, the asking price will change. And number 3 will have value. It will have more value in June than it does in May. Deadline spur actions. I am confident in that. Will it have the value to pry those guys? We shall see. We shall see. I think that's the debate the Blazers will have internally, right? It's like, does this thing we have return us enough value to be worth trading? That's what they'll have internally. But I believe right now is the time to lie. Value is going to go up. The price will change. But the number 3 overall pick, this is the best trade piece the Blazers have had in many, many moons. If they're going to make a big swing, the time is now. The time is June of 2023. And important to note that they've never taken that truly big swing with Damian Lillard involved. What they've done often under Neil Olshey in the past regime was mistake good fortune for proof of concept at several off seasons. When they got lucky and had some really nice seasons, the front office said, this works, let's quadruple down on it. And then the summer of 2019 happened when they had injuries and made some mistakes and built a crappy roster. But for the most part, mistaking good fortune for proof of concept was what kept the Blazers away from making the big move. And under Joe Cronin, the Blazers have been cycling towards something like this, right? They've been cycling towards this summer exactly to make the move. You trade the pick because you've never really given Damian Lillard that I'm going to take a home run swing knowing that we might strike out. The previous regime was obsessed with doubles, and Joe Cronin has been slowly bunting ground balls to third base, knowing that eventually his incredible sacrifice bunts will somehow, this baseball analogy got away from me, but I guess Joe Cronin has been taking pitches. Maybe that's a better one for it. But more seriously, Cronin has been cycling towards this because what he did when he first took over was tear the roster down and say, we've got to totally change the pieces and we've got to prioritize getting cheaper with flexibility into the future. We need draft picks. We're going to get Jeremy Grant with one of these draft picks. We're going to not have long-term money. We're basically going to get off everything that the prior roster had, and we are not prioritizing getting pieces back that are like long-term parts of the future. We're going to, salary dump Robert Covington and Norman Powell. We're going to trade CJ McCollum essentially for the pick that became, and the trade exception that became Jeremy Grant and Josh Hart, who we're probably not going to re-sign because of sort of the cycle of where things are. And I think because of ending up getting Shaedon Sharpe kind of changed the calculations a little bit. And then at this year's trade, and then immediately after that teardown, Damian Lillard got a $100 million contract extension. You tear the roster down. You give Damian Lillard a maximum contract extension. I don't know. The $100 million is a rough estimate. It's 35% of the cap over two full seasons. 35% of the cap both seasons, escalating. Starts at 35%, escalates. It's actually how it actually works. And then this year, instead of trying to upgrade, he prioritized players entering free agency this summer. Kevin Knox, Cam Reddish, Matisse Thybulle. No one has long-term money. Reportedly, they weren't interested in James Wiseman. You know why? He makes money next season. They are prioritizing the flexibility of this summer. They've been setting up for this. You trade number 3 because you trust the front office has been building towards something like this for several cycles. Two trade deadlines and a full offseason last season. They've been building to this. They built an intentionally mediocre roster that was undersized on purpose, undeniable that they built a roster that wasn't very good, and then they made it worse to do this. You trade the pick because they have been building towards this, and the case for it is that they have been calculating. The last time they were calculating, they went and got Jeremy Grant on the relatively cheap. They create a perfect trade exception and trade a $20-25 pick for him. It's a pretty good deal. You trust him. You trade the pick because you've been building towards this, and you have to reward the sort of patience and forethought in the league, or at least trust this patience and forethought from a front office. That's the case to be made. And this is the big swing you've been waiting for in the Damian Lillard era. So the combination of they've never taken a big swing and they've set themselves up for now several cycles to take this swing. Let them take it. You trade the pick because they've gotten here. And then this is likely your last opportunity. If they don't do this now, you probably don't have a chance to have something this shiny and new. Once you take the rookie, they're part, technically you can trade rookies 30 days after they're signed and all that, but there's a lot of things that kind of have to fall in place for that to happen. The timing isn't very good for free agency. It's just a very unlikely scenario. And you say, oh, well, you can trade them at the deadline. And you can, right? Like the Tyrese Halliburton thing. You certainly can. There's a world in which that happens. But you have to have Dame's buy-in for to get there first. There's just a lot of things, a lot of boxes to check to get there. So you trade the pick because this opportunity doesn't come very often. And if you miss this opportunity, it might be gone. Opportunity is not a lengthy visitor. And I saved this one for the last part of this segment. The soft stuff. You trade the pick because you want Damian Lillard on your roster. And I think people who are making, and I'm going to try not to straw man here. I have seen in the YouTube comments and from a handful of emails and from tweets and stuff, it's like people are making the case with graphs and charts and numbers, mostly just like stats, right? That here's why you keep Dame and blah, 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 blah. The core of why you trade 3 is because you want Damian Lillard on your team for as long as possible. The sort of existential part of what do we as fans, or what does a franchise owe an franchise icon, someone who has been loyal to the franchise, someone who has put down roots in the city and moved his family here, someone who at every turn has said over and over again how much he appreciates being here and doing it this way. There is an existential soft element to this. an emotional element. You trade the pick because it means that you get to give it one last chance with Dame. And the other option likely means without. You trade the pick because it's meaningful to you. And I think this is like, I encourage you just to say this as a fan. Just say it. Just say it. Like, I think this has been a thing that's happened over the last like maybe 15 years in sports fandom is like, instead of saying like, yeah, I don't like that dude very much. It's like, well, technically his on-off numbers suggest that he's actually not a good defender and Marcus Smart is a big doofus or whatever it is. Or like Alex Caruso is the most overrated. It's like, just say you don't like him. And if you love something, say you love it. It's the most simple thing. So I encourage you as a fan to get down to the most core, the most atomized reason to make this trade and trade the number 3 pick for veteran help as Damian Lamont, Ollie Lillard wishes. It's because you want Dame on your squad. You trade the pick because it's what Dame wants and you want to do what Dame wants. You trade the pick because you love Damian Lillard. That's why you do it. That's the most sort of core, basic, like I said, atomized reason to do it, right? No graphs, no charts, no 32-year-old best season, no best point guard in the league stuff. All of that matters, but it exists in a separate box. The box with your big stinking heart on it says, I love this dude and I don't want him to play in another jersey. And that, what I'm telling you now, is a valid reason to be against making moves that would maybe end the Damian Lillard era. You do not need to justify it with anything other than, I love this and I'm hoping that it works out. That is valid. That is even wonderful. That's the beauty of sports. No need to justify it beyond, this is what I want in my heart. What I want to do to close the show, though, is talk a little bit about sort of the other side. What I did to close yesterday's show was sort of acknowledge the challenges. I want to acknowledge the challenges to close the show here because trading number 3 is like in some ways simple and in the other ways incredibly hard because it's like a big risky thing. Let's do that to close the show. Join me in the third segment, won't you? Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. I laid out why you would trade the number 3 overall pick. Valuable asset that can get you back valuable pieces. And while the reporting suggests now that some of the valuable pieces the Blazers have coveted aren't going to be available for that asking price, I believe they will be at some point. Just wait. We're a month out. We will get there. Number 3 gets you value. Number 3 is what Dame wants them to trade the lottery pick for veteran help. Number 3 helps you keep Damian Lillard on the roster. They've never really taken a big swing in the past. This is their opportunity to take that big swing, do the thing that you've been hoping they would do for Damian Lillard for years. The front office has been setting up for basically this, it seems like, for a year and a half. If you believe them, if you sort of trust what they've been selling, this is what they've been selling, this opportunity. And this is your chance to have a big shiny thing to trade. A package of number 3 overall and Anfernee Simons is likely a pretty solid high-end package. A solid, if not very good, high-end package. If the Blazers make some other moves to free up their future first-round picks that are owed to the Chicago Bulls, Portland could be in business with one of the more appealing packages among teams chasing very good players in the league. But it doesn't come without obvious risks, some of which I laid out in yesterday's show, but I think the sort of general talking points that rookies are bad is disingenuous. I have said on the show, I said it a million times heading into last season's show, this is an opinion I hold, that rookies are bad. But saying like they shouldn't trade, they can't draft 3, they can't trade Dame and then pick at 3 because rookies are bad because they'll be bad. That's the point. That's the point. That's the point. Because they'll get a pick at 3 that isn't very good now, but turns into something good and be bad again in the future, and another good pick that turns into something good. That's the whole freaking point of a rebuild. It is disingenuous to say don't trade Dame because rookies are bad. It's a silly talking point. The reason that you don't trade 3 is that rookies are good. It's actually the freaking reverse, right? Like, and the reason that it is, the reason that you would trade Dame is because you get an opportunity to draft good players. And moreover, if you think 3 is not particularly valuable because it doesn't lead back good players, what the heck are you trading? What are you offering? When you call up the Nets and you say, hey, look, we don't think you can get a very good player and whoever you draft here is going to suck. Like, what are you offering? The pick cannot be not worth it on one end and deeply worth it on the other end. It doesn't work that way. It's a disingenuous argument. But the risk with trading the pick is that they will stink, not on purpose, because there is inherent risk in cashing all of this in. The sort of the other end, make the pick, Dame leaves and you're bad. Yeah, that's the point. But on the flip side, what I'm arguing for here is you trade the pick, you get a veteran, Pascal Siakam comes in, and you're just kind of okay. That's the actual risk here. And moreover, Damian Lillard's owed a bunch of money. It's going to be hard to build a team if you trade for someone like Siakam who's owed a bunch of money. If you trade for Mikal Bridges, he's got a little bit cheaper, but Siakam and OG Anunoby are entering free agency next year. You're going to get really expensive in a hurry. You're going to have Dame, you're going to pay Jeremy Grant, you're going to have Pascal Siakam. You're going to get a really expensive roster, and you're going to have limited chances to upgrade that roster beyond what it's set at. You'll have some more opportunities, not none, but you will be relatively stuck with probably a darn good team, but maybe not a team that gets into the upper echelon. And that's the actual risk here, is that I think the Blazers can trade 3 and get, let's say they do end up getting Mikal Bridges. I think he's a good player. He's really, really solid player. Has more offensive upside than I would have guessed, is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, is long, he's really good. He's really good. It's proven that he can be an on-ball kind of create his own offense guy like it was in Brooklyn, and thrived as the 4th option on a team that made the championship with the Phoenix Suns. Was a totally unfair 4th best player on that Phoenix team. They were awesome. They just lost to a really good Milwaukee team and then choked like incredible dogs in the playoffs against the Dallas Mavericks. Doesn't mean Mikal's not good. But say you do make that type of trade. You trade 3, you trade for Ant, and you get Mikal Bridges. You flip Nurk and Nazir Little somewhere else to get an upgrade that makes you a little bit better. Say, I don't know if this is realistic, but just for the sake of this exercise, you end up with, you give 23 and Nurk and Nazir Little and a future, and you end up with some future pick of some flavor, lottery protected first out into the future, and you get Miles Turner. You've got this fun role play. That team's not going to rebound very well. But you have this fun role player, spacey center who's a pretty good rim protector, although he doesn't rebound very well. You've got your ace defender in Mikal Bridges. You've got a really good defender on the bench when you bring him back in Matisse Thybulle. You've got a really solid scorer in Jeremy Grant, and you've got a superstar in Damian Lillard. That seems like a not totally outrageous idea. It's not a perfect plan, but totally not outrageous idea. That would be the case for trading 3, right? It's in a short summer, you've now built a team that's pretty darn competitive. Maybe you can even close your eyes and talk yourself into hey, the West is wide open. All it takes is a bad shooting series from the Nuggets role players, and all of a sudden you're in there. You're in there. The Nuggets might roll the finals this year, to kind of change the calculation, but I think you talk yourself into it, right? But I don't know that the Blazers have other parts to make a really deep roster. So the inherent risk in trading 3 is that you can make move number 1, but the Blazers might need moves 3, 4, and 5, and also to get there. So you have to have, even after you make that first move, that big swing, that big risk, knowing that you've traded a good young player in Anthony Simons and a potentially very good young player in whoever is available at number 3, we'll call him Brandon Miller. You got to know that even that trade executed gets you closer, but not all the way there. There's inherent risk in doing the exact thing that people think is, again, I'm doing a straw man thing. Too many YouTube comments, too many tweets. I don't mean to do straw man. I mean to speak to the logic. Apologize. If the concern is that keeping 3 means you'll be bad, trading 3 means you'll be mediocre and stuck. That's the challenge. In fact, when I've done a podcast similar to this in the past, I think where I landed was I don't know what the Blazers should do because both paths lead back to the middle in different ways. A rebuild doesn't guarantee championship success, and trading 3 doesn't guarantee you get to that. Trading the draft pick doesn't mean that you get into that upper echelon. But I will say this. The case for trading 3 is as simple as this. The way that the Blazers are as best as they can possibly be over the next 2 seasons is with Damian Lillard on the roster. The way that they are best over the next 5 seasons is unknown. You can trade for the unknown, you can draft the unknown and hope, but if you are looking to be as best as possible and give Damian Lillard the chance that he covets and has asked for, the case for trading 3 is right there in front of you, even with the pitfalls I just laid out in this segment, even with the challenges of, they can build a pretty good starting group and probably a pretty good even top 6 or 7, but the depth to be like really, really good in the league might not be there, and it might be hard to get to because of the challenges of having a really expensive roster. I still probably think that drafting 3 is the most responsible path. But the idea that a team of Damian Lillard and Pascal Siakam wouldn't be darn good is silly. Pascal Siakam is an excellent basketball player and an easy dude to root for, and Damian Lillard is an excellent basketball player and an easy dude to root for. You would have no problem talking yourself into that team. You trade 3 because this is your chance to take the swing with Dame, and this is the biggest trade piece you've had. You trade 3 because the opportunity is here right now and it might not return again. And you trade 3 because its value is why you did all that losing. You trade 3 because you want Damian Lillard to have a chance wearing the jersey you prefer. And your heart can be the easily most important deciding factor. And that is a wonderful reason to feel that way. The case for trading 3 is that you feel that your fandom owes it to Dame, and thus the Portland Trailblazers organization owes it to Dame, and that there is undeniable the best way to be good over the next 2 seasons is by having a dude who was arguably the best point guard in the NBA last year on the roster. You already have him. The best way to be good is to show up in October with 0 still in tow, because he's really stinking good. And if you want a chance to be in the conversation, he's got to be there. And it seems increasingly likely that he has given the word, middle ground aside, given the word that trade 3, give me what I want, give me a chance. Or don't, and we'll have that tough conversation. He said it basically as cleanly as he could at exit interviews. You trade 3 because you want to honor his request. You want to go for it. That's the definitive case. If you want to hear the flip side, go listen to yesterday's show. Plenty of people disagreed with that one. Plenty of people disagreed with this one. That's the bizarre place the Blazers find themselves in. I think fans have very clearly said this is the absolute truth way to go, and this is the absolute truth and the absolute way to go. And I'm hoping that these 2 episodes at the end of May can give you some logic on both sides on why you would go in one direction or the other. If you're going to go for it, you got to go for it in one direction this summer, and they are very, very different paths. Thanks for listening this week. I appreciate you. We'll do 5 more next week. Tell your friends about the show. Tell them to make it their first listen. It's available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.